12 hidden truths we discovered about R&B stars after they passed away. What if I told you that some of the greatest black music legends in history died while hiding terrifying secrets from the public? Behind the fame, billion-dollar success, and unforgettable performances were shocking autopsy reports, dangerous addictions, emotional breakdowns, and private suffering fans never truly saw until it was too late. From Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson to Prince, Aaliyah, and Left Eye, these stars looked unstoppable in front of the cameras. But their real lives were far more heartbreaking than most people ever imagined. Tonight, we're uncovering the disturbing truths and tragic discoveries revealed after their deaths that shocked the entire world. Stay until the end, because some details are almost impossible to believe. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below on Memory Lane Black People. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston once seemed larger than life. With a voice so powerful it could silence an arena within seconds, she became one of the greatest singers music had ever seen. Born on August 9, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, Whitney grew up surrounded by gospel and soul legends, including her mother, Cissy Houston. By the mid-1980s, she had transformed into a global superstar through unforgettable songs like I Will Always Love You, Greatest Love of All, and How Will I Know? Her beauty, elegance, and unmatched vocals made her the image of perfection to millions around the world. But behind the fame, Whitney carried enormous emotional pressure. Years of non-stop success, public scrutiny, troubled relationships, and substance abuse slowly began affecting both her health and career. Fans watched painful interviews, inconsistent performances, and rumors of addiction dominate headlines throughout the 2000s. Despite repeated comeback attempts, the damage continued building quietly behind closed doors. Then came February 11, 2012. Whitney was found unconscious in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel just hours before a Grammy-related party. She was only 48 years old. The official autopsy later revealed cocaine use, severe heart disease, and signs of long-term drug damage hidden beneath her glamorous public image. Investigators also discovered evidence of chronic cocaine use, including damage to her nasal septum. Reports further revealed extensive dental reconstruction and physical deterioration that shocked many fans who still remembered the flawless superstar from decades earlier. What made Whitney's death especially heartbreaking was how public her decline had become. The woman whose voice once inspired hope and joy across generations spent her final years battling personal demons the world could see but could not stop. Even today, her music still feels timeless because listeners can hear genuine emotion in every note she sang. Prince. Prince was not just a musician, he was a phenomenon. Born Prince Rogers Nelson on June 7, 1958 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he spent decades redefining music through creativity, mystery, and fearless originality. Whether performing Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, or 1999, Prince created a sound entirely his own, blending funk, rock, pop, soul, and R&B into something audiences had never experienced before. He wrote, produced, arranged, and played multiple instruments himself, becoming one of the most gifted artists in music history. To fans, Prince appeared unstoppable. Even in his 50s, he continued performing exhausting live shows lasting hours. But privately, years of intense stage performances had severely damaged his body, especially his hips and joints. Friends later revealed he lived with chronic pain while quietly relying on prescription medication to continue working. In April 2016, concerns spread after Prince's private jet made an emergency landing following a concert. Days later, on April 21st, he was found dead inside an elevator at Paisley Park, his Minnesota estate and recording studio. He was only 57 years old. The official investigation later confirmed he died from an accidental fentanyl overdose. What shocked the world most was the belief that Prince may not have realized he was taking fentanyl at all. Authorities discovered counterfeit pills disguised as prescription medication inside his home. The tragedy exposed how dangerous and widespread the opioid crisis had become, affecting even one of the most intelligent and private stars in entertainment. Prince spent much of his life protecting his privacy and controlling every detail of his career. Yet in the end, the silent physical pain he endured behind the scenes became impossible to hide. His death devastated fans because he still seemed creatively unstoppable, still performing, still inspiring, and still creating music that sounded years ahead of its time. Aaliyah. Aaliyah's death remains one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in music history because it happened at the exact moment her career was reaching an entirely new level. Born on January 16, 1979 in Brooklyn, New York, and raised in Detroit, Aaliyah entered the entertainment industry while still a teenager. With her smooth voice, calm personality, and futuristic style, she quickly separated herself from every other young R&B star of the 1990s. Albums like One in a Million and Aaliyah helped redefine modern R&B, while films such as Romeo Must Die proved she was becoming a major Hollywood actress as well. By 2001, Aaliyah seemed unstoppable. But behind the glamorous success was a devastating chain of decisions that would end her life far too soon. On August 25, 2001, after finishing the Rock the Boat music video in the Bahamas earlier than expected, Aaliyah and her team rushed to return to Miami on a small Cessna aircraft. Investigators later revealed the plane was dangerously overloaded, carrying excessive luggage and one more passenger than legally allowed. Even more disturbing, the pilot, Luis Morales III, was later found to have cocaine and alcohol in his system at the time of the crash. Authorities also discovered the pilot had reportedly falsified parts of his flight experience and was not properly certified to operate that specific aircraft. Witnesses claimed concerns were raised about the plane's weight before takeoff, but the flight proceeded anyway. Seconds after leaving the runway, the aircraft crashed and burst into flames. Aaliyah was only 22 years old. The tragedy shocked the world because she represented elegance, humility, and enormous untapped potential. Fans struggled to accept that someone so young, talented, and beloved could disappear in an instant because of preventable mistakes. Even decades later, artists across R&B and pop music still credit Aaliyah for influencing fashion, vocals, and modern female artistry. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye's life ended in a tragedy so shocking that even decades later, it still feels difficult to believe. Born on April 2, 1939 in Washington, D.C., Marvin became one of the most important voices in soul and R&B history through timeless songs like What's Going On, Sexual Healing, and Let's Get It On. His music blended romance, spirituality, and social commentary in ways that transformed Motown forever. To audiences, Marvin sounded smooth, confident, and emotionally wise. But behind the music was a deeply troubled man carrying years of pain, addiction, anxiety, and emotional scars from childhood. Much of that trauma centered around his relationship with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr., a strict Pentecostal minister known for violent discipline and emotional cruelty inside the home. Family members later described years of physical abuse and constant tension between father and son. Even after becoming a global superstar, Marvin reportedly struggled with depression, paranoia, and cocaine addiction during the final years of his life. In one of the most disturbing twists in music history, the gun that ultimately killed Marvin had reportedly been purchased by Marvin himself and given to his father months earlier for protection. On April 1, 1984, after an argument inside the family's Los Angeles home escalated violently, Marvin Gaye Sr. shot his son twice in the chest. Marvin died just one day before his 45th birthday. After his death, even darker details began surfacing. Friends and family revealed the emotional torment Marvin had endured for years, while toxicology reports confirmed drugs in his system at the time of the shooting. Some relatives later believed Marvin may have intentionally provoked the confrontation, emotionally exhausted and unable to continue fighting his inner pain. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson spent his entire life under a spotlight so intense that it eventually became impossible to escape. Born on August 29, 1958, in Gary, Indiana, Michael entered fame as a child with the Jackson 5 before transforming into the biggest pop star the world had ever seen. Albums like Thriller, Bad, and Dangerous shattered records, sold millions of copies worldwide, and turned Michael into a global icon recognized in nearly every country on Earth. To fans, he appeared magical, untouchable, almost beyond human. But behind the fame was a man slowly collapsing under pressure, isolation, and physical pain. On June 25, 2009, the world was stunned when Michael Jackson was found unconscious inside his rented Los Angeles mansion. Attempts to revive him failed, and he was pronounced dead at only 50 years old. The official autopsy later revealed he died from acute propofol intoxication combined with other sedatives. Propofol, a powerful surgical anesthetic normally used in hospital operating rooms, had reportedly been administered regularly to help Michael sleep. Investigators discovered that years of insomnia, anxiety, and dependence on prescription medication had created a dangerous situation behind closed doors. His personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter for improperly administering the drugs without proper medical monitoring equipment. What made Michael's death especially tragic was the realization that one of the most famous entertainers in history spent his final years unable to find something as simple as peaceful sleep. Behind the legendary performances, dazzling costumes, and worldwide success was a deeply lonely man carrying emotional wounds that fame could never heal. Even now, Michael Jackson's story remains both extraordinary and heartbreaking, proof that global admiration cannot always protect someone from private suffering hidden far away from the stage lights. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross had a voice that sounded effortless, warm, and deeply personal. For decades, his music became the soundtrack of love, heartbreak, and emotional healing for millions of listeners around the world. Born on April 20, 1951 in New York City, Luther spent years working quietly behind the scenes as a songwriter and background vocalist before finally emerging as one of R&B's greatest solo artists. Songs like Never Too Much, Here and Now, and Dance with My Father showcased not only his incredible vocal control, but also the emotional honesty that made audiences feel personally connected to him. But while Luther's voice sounded smooth and comforting, his private struggles were far more painful. Throughout much of his adult life, he battled severe weight fluctuations, diabetes, hypertension, and emotional eating. At different points in his career, his weight reportedly changed by more than 100 pounds multiple times. Luther openly admitted that food became a coping mechanism whenever he felt emotionally overwhelmed or stressed by the pressures of fame. Despite repeated attempts to regain control of his health, the cycle continued for years. Friends later revealed that Luther privately struggled with exhaustion and the physical strain caused by constant touring, recording, and dramatic dieting changes. In 2003, while preparing new projects and discussing a possible reality series focused on weight loss and health improvement, tragedy suddenly struck. Luther suffered a massive stroke inside his New York home at age 52. On July 1, 2005, Luther Vandross died at 54 years old due to complications connected to the stroke and underlying medical conditions. What makes Luther's story so emotional is how deeply his music comforted others while he quietly struggled to care for himself physically and emotionally. Behind one of the greatest voices in soul music history was a man fighting battles with health, loneliness, and self-discipline that the public rarely fully understood until after he was gone. Natalie Cole. Natalie Cole spent much of her life trying to step out of the enormous shadow left by her legendary father, Nat King Cole. Born on February 6, 1950, in Los Angeles, California, Natalie inherited extraordinary musical talent, but fame also brought intense pressure from the very beginning. During the 1970s, she emerged as a major star in her own right, with soulful hits like This Will Be, Inseparable, and Our Love. Her voice carried elegance, warmth, and emotional depth that connected deeply with audiences across generations. But behind the success, Natalie battled painful personal demons that nearly destroyed her career and eventually contributed to her tragic decline years later. During her 20s, she became addicted to heroin and cocaine while struggling emotionally with fame, grief, and the pressure of constantly being compared to her father. Although Natalie eventually overcame addiction and rebuilt her life, the damage caused by those years never fully disappeared. In 2008, doctors delivered devastating news. Natalie had contracted hepatitis C, a virus often linked to intravenous drug use years earlier. The disease had remained hidden inside her body for decades before quietly attacking her liver and kidneys. Determined to survive, Natalie underwent aggressive treatments that left her physically exhausted, weak, and emotionally drained. The medication damaged her kidneys so severely that she eventually required dialysis several times each week just to stay alive. Even while enduring constant medical treatments, Natalie continued performing and speaking publicly about organ donation and kidney disease awareness. In 2009, she received a kidney transplant after a donor family reportedly responded to her public plea for help. Fans admired her courage because she refused to completely disappear from public life despite the enormous suffering her body was enduring. But years of illness had already taken a devastating toll. Natalie later developed congestive heart failure and serious respiratory complications connected to her declining health. On December 31, 2015, she died at 65 years old. Gerald Levert. Gerald Levert had one of the most powerful and emotional voices in modern R&B. Born on July 13, 1966 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Gerald grew up surrounded by soul music as the son of Eddie Levert from the legendary group The O'Jays. But instead of simply relying on his father's legacy, Gerald created his own identity through passion-filled ballads, emotional honesty, and a voice capable of expressing heartbreak better than almost anyone of his era. Through solo hits and songs with the group Levert, Gerald became a major force in 1990s R&B with classics like Baby Hold On to Me, Casanova, and Thinkin' About It. Fans connected deeply with his music because it sounded sincere and mature, especially to older audiences who appreciated emotional storytelling over flashy trends. Yet while his career remained successful, serious health struggles were quietly building behind the scenes. In the years before his death, Gerald reportedly dealt with chronic pain connected to shoulder problems and injuries from Achilles tendon surgery. To manage the pain, he was prescribed multiple medications, including narcotic painkillers and anti-anxiety drugs. Tragically, the combination of those medications would later become fatal. On November 10, 2006, Gerald Levert was found dead in his Cleveland home at only 40 years old. Initial reports shocked fans, but the official autopsy later revealed a far more disturbing reality. Coroners determined Gerald died from acute intoxication caused by a dangerous mixture of prescription drugs, including Vicodin, Percocet, Xanax, and several additional medications. The death was ruled accidental. To fans, his death felt sudden and deeply unfair. Behind the rich voice and confident stage presence was a man privately battling physical pain and emotional pressure while continuing to give audiences music filled with warmth, love, and vulnerability. Even today, Gerald Levert's songs still carry extraordinary emotion because listeners can hear the genuine heart of a man whose life ended far too soon. Rick James. Rick James lived exactly the way he performed. Loud, unpredictable, rebellious, and dangerously excessive. Born James Ambrose Johnson Jr. on February 1, 1948, in Buffalo, New York, Rick became one of funk music's most unforgettable stars during the late 1970s and 1980s. With hits like Super Freak, Give It To Me Baby, and Fire and Desire, he built an image centered around wild energy, sexual freedom, and non-stop partying. To fans, Rick James appeared fearless and unstoppable, a man who turned chaos into entertainment. But behind the outrageous image was someone slowly destroying his body through decades of addiction and excess. Throughout much of his career, Rick openly battled cocaine dependency, legal troubles, and emotional instability. His lifestyle became legendary inside the music industry, especially during the height of his fame when drugs, alcohol, and all-night partying surrounded nearly every part of his life. Even after serving prison time in the 1990s and attempting to rebuild himself, the physical damage caused by years of substance abuse never truly disappeared. In the early 2000s, Rick experienced a career comeback after younger audiences rediscovered him through comedy sketches and renewed media attention. Publicly, he appeared healthier and more reflective. But privately, serious medical problems continued affecting him, including diabetes, heart disease, and the lingering effects of past drug use. Then came the shocking discovery after his death. On August 6, 2004, Rick James was found dead inside his Los Angeles home at 56 years old. While initial reports focused on heart failure and natural causes, toxicology results later revealed an alarming reality. Authorities found 9 different drugs in his system, including cocaine, methamphetamine, Xanax, Valium, Vicodin, and several prescription medications. Investigators stated the substances themselves were not individually fatal, but together they created a devastating strain on his already weakened body. What made Rick James' story especially tragic was how his public persona often hid the depth of his personal pain. Behind the humor, confidence, and outrageous lifestyle was a man struggling to escape addictions that followed him for decades. Even today, Rick James remains unforgettable because his music carried explosive energy, while his real life slowly collapsed under the weight of the very excesses that once made him famous. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway possessed one of the most emotionally powerful voices soul music had ever known. Born on October 1, 1945 in Chicago and raised in St. Louis, Hathaway grew up surrounded by gospel music that deeply shaped the spiritual intensity listeners later heard in his performances. Songs like A Song for You, Someday We'll All Be Free, and his unforgettable duets with Roberta Flack revealed an artist capable of expressing pain, hope, and vulnerability with extraordinary honesty. During the 1970s, Donny became widely respected not only as a singer, but also as a gifted pianist, arranger, and composer. Yet while audiences admired the beauty of his music, very few understood the darkness quietly consuming his private life. Behind the scenes, Hathaway battled paranoid schizophrenia, a severe mental illness that deeply affected his emotional stability and perception of reality. At that time, mental health treatment carried enormous stigma, especially for black men, and public understanding remained painfully limited. Friends and collaborators later described terrifying periods where Hathaway became paranoid, withdrawn, and emotionally overwhelmed. He reportedly believed people were watching him or trying to harm him, especially during episodes when he stopped taking medication. Despite those struggles, he continued creating music that sounded deeply human, because so much genuine pain lived inside his voice. By early 1979, Donnie's mental condition had become increasingly unstable. While staying at New York's Essex House Hotel during recording sessions, witnesses noticed unusual behavior and emotional distress. Then, on January 13, 1979, tragedy struck. Hathaway fell from the 15th floor window of his hotel room and died at only 33 years old. Authorities ruled the death a suicide linked to complications from his mental illness. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman had the kind of voice that could make heartbreak sound beautiful. Tall, elegant, and emotionally powerful, she became one of the most respected soul and jazz vocalists of the late 1970s and 1980s. Born on July 6, 1949 in Philadelphia and raised in Pittsburgh, Phyllis possessed a rich, dramatic voice that immediately separated her from other singers of her era. Songs like Living All Alone, Old Friend, and You Know How to Love Me revealed extraordinary emotional depth, especially to listeners who understood loneliness, disappointment, and emotional struggle. To audiences, she appeared graceful and sophisticated, but behind the glamorous image was a woman quietly battling severe depression and bipolar disorder for much of her adult life. During an era when mental health conversations were far less open, especially inside Black entertainment circles, Phyllis often suffered in silence. Friends later described periods of emotional exhaustion, intense mood swings, and deep loneliness hidden beneath her calm public personality. On June 30th, 1995, Phyllis was scheduled to perform at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. But earlier that day, she was found dead inside her New York apartment from an apparent overdose ruled a suicide. She was only 45 years old. A heartbreaking note discovered afterward revealed years of emotional suffering that many people around her never fully understood. What makes Phyllis Hyman's story especially tragic is how much pain existed behind one of the most beautiful voices in soul music history. Her songs sounded deeply personal because they often reflected emotions she was privately fighting herself. Even today, listeners still connect to her music because they can hear genuine vulnerability inside every performance. Behind the elegance and stunning vocals was a woman searching desperately for peace in a world that applauded her talent but often overlooked her emotional struggles until it was far too late. Left Eye. Lisa Left Eye Lopez brought fire, creativity, and emotional honesty into every room she entered. As a member of TLC, she helped redefine 1990s music through bold lyrics, unforgettable style, and fearless individuality. Born on May 27, 1971, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Left Eye quickly became the most unpredictable and emotionally raw member of the group. While TLC dominated charts worldwide with hits like Waterfalls, No Scrubs, and Creep, Lisa stood out because she refused to hide her personality, flaws, or pain from the public. Behind the success, however, her private life often felt chaotic and emotionally exhausting. Her highly publicized relationship with NFL player Andre Rison became one of the most controversial celebrity romances of the 1990s. The relationship included explosive arguments, emotional instability, and the infamous 1994 incident where Lisa accidentally burned down Rison's mansion during a fight. Media outlets quickly portrayed her as reckless and unstable, but many people close to her believed she was struggling emotionally beneath the pressure of fame, relationships, and public judgment. As TLC's success grew, Left Eye began searching for deeper meaning outside celebrity life. She became increasingly interested in spirituality, self-healing, and emotional growth. Friends later said she seemed determined to find peace after years of personal turmoil and industry stress. Then tragedy struck unexpectedly. On April 25, 2002, while traveling in Honduras, Left Eye was driving an SUV when she suddenly swerved to avoid another vehicle. The car rolled several times, killing her instantly at only 30 years old. Several passengers survived the accident, making the loss feel even more shocking and surreal. What still makes Left Eye unforgettable is how human she felt to audiences. She was talented, emotional, flawed, vulnerable, and fearless all at once. Behind the bold image and rebellious energy was a woman trying to heal from pain while carrying the overwhelming pressure that often comes with fame. Even decades later, Left Eye remains one of music's most tragic and fascinating figures because her spirit always felt too alive to disappear so suddenly. Behind the fame, the sold-out concerts, and the legendary voices were painful secrets many fans never imagined. From Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson to Aaliyah, Prince, and Left Eye, these icons entertained millions while quietly battling addiction, emotional trauma, health problems, and overwhelming pressure behind closed doors. Some deaths shocked the world instantly, while others revealed disturbing truths only after official reports and investigations were released. But looking back now, which celebrity story do you believe was the most tragic? And which hidden discovery after their death shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, because every generation remembers these legends differently. If you love emotional celebrity stories, untold music history, and Black entertainment legends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us on Memory Lane, Black people, for more unforgettable stories.